Hey there, welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Mari B, and today we have a special show. We're talking about a topic that just happened on November 5th. The Houston community experienced a tragedy at the 2021 Astroworld Festival that had a global impact. Due to crowd surges throughout the event, several concert goers were injured and trampled, which caused multiple injuries and multiple fatalities. Before we begin the show, we would like to respect and take a moment of silence and show respect for the lives that those that lost their lives during this tragedy. We pray for the families and the friends of those that lost their lives. And today, I have the pleasure of having two attorneys from D. Miller and Associates PLLC that represent many people that were affected by this tragedy. We have Attorney Anuj Kapur and Attorney Darren Miller. We'd like to welcome you on today's show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We're happy to have you on today's show for numerous reasons to really create awareness and show the importance of some of the things and some of the actions that happen. It's very important we reflect also on the lives that were lost, but we want to speak with transparency what happened and how can we avoid this from happening in the future. So attorneys, I want you guys to start off by telling us a little bit of the details that you guys are able to discuss on what exactly happened.
Sure. So I'll start, Darren. I mean, I think what happened on that specific day was a slew of bad decisions. And, it started earlier in that day where ticket goers were entering the premises, and people weren't following the rules at that point. So there were a slew of decisions starting very early that day, and there wasn't enough security in place at that moment. People had made the decision after seeing all the craziness that was going on to continue with this show. And so very early on, these things were happening. Decisions could have been made differently to stop what was happening and say, look, guys, we need to take a step back and reassess the situation. And that wasn't done. Mm. After that, with the performances that were going on, a lot of things were encouraged that shouldn't have been encouraged in this large of a demographic with this many people in one position, one place. There were just a lot of things that happened that should not have happened that day.
And additionally, Anuj, there's so many indications here that these guys were on notice as to what was going on and things that had happened in the past. And so there's no question that the folks involved here, the decision makers, as Anuj said, should have taken a step back, assessed the situation based upon what things that have happened in the past to make better decisions, and they failed to do that.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, the biggest failure that was made was people put profits ahead of people. Mm. And I think when that happens, nothing ever good comes from that.
And, we've been to many of these concerts before. I mean, I love Travis Scott. I've been to Drake before, Migos, the rest of the crew. And let's face it, these concerts sometimes they start an hour, 2 hours late, 2 hours late sometimes. The guys could have made the decision to hold on, what's going on here? Let me reassess, find out what's exactly going on, and made decisions in the best interest of the general public, and they failed to do that.
Yeah. In fact, I've been to some concerts where the performers are actually saying the crowd is getting out of hand, and they will stop their performance and they'll say, hey guys, let's check this. Let's stop. Let's be respectful of the security. Let's be respectful of each other. Let's not do this. And that wasn't done that day.
Correct.
The opposite actually happened where they encouraged it and said, yeah, let's rage. Let's do this. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And here's the appalling thing about this, Anuj, is that just a couple of weeks ago, there was another concert at Energy where, I mean, things were starting to get out of control. And the performers made the decision, hey, this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to go on, and we're going to stop the performance. So both the performer made the decision not to do it. Energy was on notice as to what happened just 2 weeks ago, and they failed to do anything about it for this concert when they know 50,000 people are going to show up.
Right.
So what I want to kind of talk about that you guys are bringing up the decision makers, right? Now, Astroworld is a yearly festival that occurs in Houston. Now, has this been reported or has these types of incidents happened in the past festivals with Astroworld?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no question that issues have come up. If you go on record, you go online, Anuj is doing all the research. He's going to be actually leading the litigation for us as related to this case. And there are so many incidents of past issues that these parties, these defendants, were on notice as related to very similar issues. Again, not as serious as this, as related to things that have happened in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be bringing a lawsuit against the promoters, against the individual performers and other, parties that were involved in this event. But yeah, this is not a one-off occurrence. This has happened before. These people are all on notice of what could transpire at this event. You've got large performers with large followings, and encouraging behavior that's not proper in this kind of setting. Just it didn't lead to a good experience for the goers, and it just was a traumatic experience for all of Houston.
Yeah, and I know you attorneys have a seat at the table and want to make a change for the future, want to have a voice for those lives that are not here anymore. I want to talk a little bit about the attendees. This year was supposed to be a 2-day festival, didn't make it to the second day. It was a sold out event that had 50,000 people in attendance. In your opinion, was this event with 50,000 people on the first day over capacity?
I don't know necessarily that it was over capacity. I'm not qualified to make that decision. But what I will say is I think the leadership that was in place wasn't qualified for this event. I think the security that was in place wasn't sufficient for the event and for the number of people that were coming. So that I can clearly say. Darren?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a great question, Marty. But here's the deal: they sold 50,000 tickets. They knew 50,000 people were going to be attending their venue. They had the opportunity. They were on notice to make provisions to make sure that 50,000 people safely entered and left their venue. They failed to do that. I've seen numbers of 367 police that were on force at that time. That's woefully insignificant. That's not enough security folks to address these types of situations. And you clearly see that with what happened.
Right. And the one thing is, they sold 50,000 tickets, but it could have been more people that were at this event than those 50,000 because there wasn't security at the entrance gates, or there wasn't sufficient security for ticket checking, for, weapon checking, any type of checking that was going on at these specific places of Astroworld. So we don't know exactly how many were there. Could have been more than 50,000.
Exactly. Right.
Right. And I know this event happened at the NRG Center, right? Which is where the Houston Texans play. And I know you guys mentioned certain details on what happened and and it happened previously. Who are the parties, if you guys are able to mention, that are at fault here? I know we're kind of saying they had, a duty, the people who are responsible, but who really are these parties?
Well, I think there's quite a few, and there's still more that are coming out, Madi. So we're still in that discovery phase, but right off the bat, I think Travis Scott and Drake played a pivotal role in what happened on that specific day. I think the promoters also played, which was Live Nation. I think they played a very instrumental role in what took place. I think also the security personnel, whoever had hired that security and designated that we need this many officers and this many security personnel on site at this given day, is also responsible. But a lot of that stuff is still coming out at this point.
And as we're going to talk about a little bit later on, and we have some history with Live Nation, and I can tell you this is not the first time that they've had significant problems at one of their events. And it's, again, guys, it's You know what's happening. You know what's coming up, that people are coming out. You know people need to be safe and secure. You got to do the basics to make sure that the people are taken care of, and they're failing to do that at every step of the way.
Yeah, I think it's important whenever putting an event together, thinking of all those things in a 360 format. And I know you guys will discuss here in a little bit. I want to kind of change it a little bit and focus on the type of injuries. I know we started the show with the moment of silence. So, fatalities is one of the injuries. Your clients that you guys have and have experienced, what are some of those injuries that have been reported?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen injuries from, bruises, people that had dislocated shoulders, things of that nature. So really physical injuries to the more mental type of injuries. I spoke with a client the other day who said that she's generally fearful of going into large crowds now. Leaving her house and going to the grocery store gives her an anxiety that she never used to have. And so people ask, who has a claim? And I think anybody who was at this event has a claim. And there's no diminution of the type of injuries you have versus looking at someone that had a physical injury versus more of a mental injury. I think everybody has a claim. Everybody possibly had an injury that was at this event. And furthermore, they should come forward so that we can make sure things like this don't happen again. I said this earlier, putting profits ahead of people. And we see this every day in different instances in our line of work, whether it's an 18-wheeler on the road, whether it's somebody at Kroger that doesn't take proper steps in ensuring their premises are safe. People need to be accountable. And if we don't have these people and our clients come forward and make their claims, nothing will change. And we've got to take a stand here and say, you know what, we cannot allow this to happen again.
Yeah, I think that the range and the damages of clients, it spans the spectrum. We have clients we have almost 30 clients now that we've signed as related to this tragedy. We got a couple that have been hospitalized with certain broken bones. So obviously, those physical injuries are clear on their face. You've got other people that were injured while the hubbub was going on, and seeing someone lying there dead when you went to go enjoy a concert as a 10-year-old, for example. That's awful. You shouldn't have to suffer those types of issues. And as Anuj said, anyone who was attending the concert has the potential for an injury. What we'd like to do is just talk you through it, ask certain questions about what you've done and what's happened to you, what you've been through, and just kind of discuss the situation with you to see exactly the nature of your claim and whether or not we can help you. Again, we also have social workers here on staff that are very attentive with regards to providing counseling services and things of that nature. If there are things you want to tell them that you don't want to tell us, whatever we need to do, we're here to kind of help and can kind of point you in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I want to ask you, attorneys, I know you guys are saying physical and non. Now, does panic hold a factor in the incident that happened? Whenever you see people run, that makes you panic or seeing certain things. Could that also be an injury that you guys are experiencing and seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely along with the events, when you see a crowd running and moving and pushing, you tend to panic. And so that goes back to some of the mental claims that people might have, just seeing the things that they had seen, the anxiety that they feel now is definitely a claim that some of these event goers will be able to bring.
Some of the prior events that we've been involved in, you see these types of psychological issues. I talked to a client just yesterday that they were at the concert and they suffered a kind of a minor physical issue, but then it's like their son doesn't want to go to the Texans game anymore. They've got to give those seats away. So again, there's other mental and psychological issues and other components that we also have to consider, not just the overt physical issues.
Yeah, and Attorney Darren Miller, I want to ask you, for your firm, your attorneys at your firm, do you guys have the experience in these type of cases? I know you're mentioning a little details of past cases, and I kind of want to hear what that experience looks like and with what actual festival.
Yeah, unfortunately, again, this is not our first rodeo. We've done this before. one too many times, unfortunately. Kind of going back to the MGM shooting case and the concert that happened out there in Las Vegas, and back 3 or 4 years ago. We handled almost 100 claims out there, ranging all the way from death cases to the surgical cases to one gentleman committed suicide. There's all kinds of issues as related to those types of issues. And the unfortunate reality is that some of the same defendants that we were dealing with and tackling with out there in Las Vegas are involved in this particular case. And it's just like, how much is enough? I mean, again, I know it's about money and finances and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, do people really have to risk their lives to go see their favorite artist perform? It's just ridiculous.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, Darren. We were having a discussion this weekend, and we were with some family, and they were asking me, what is my opinion now? I have a 9-year-old daughter, and they were saying, you know, if she wanted to go to a concert in a couple of years, what would you say? Would you let her go now? And it's sad that in Houston, these are the discussions we're having, especially after reeling from COVID. You know, so long people were stuck inside the house. This concert comes up, people want to get out. And now the topic has again changed to what we're dealing with now, you know? And so I don't know. I told them I couldn't answer that question. I'm not sure. Knowing what I know now, if she wanted to go tomorrow, I would be very concerned.
Yeah. You know, you bring up a really good point, because again, you know, Marty, I know a lot of people are just thinking, yes, just because, you know, for our Las Vegas clients, we got millions upon millions of dollars for them with regards to their resolutions. But again, it's not just about the financial aspect of it. Just as Anuj just said, we want to make sure that when people go to concerts and go home, that they do it in a safe fashion. And quite frankly, one of the things that I think we need to do is to make our move to make concerts safer. And what I mean by that is, quite frankly, Anuj, I really believe that if people had bought their seats and it wasn't just general admission and everyone just rushed to go this, that, and the other, you're not going to have these types of tragedies. Right. And so one of the things that we want to do, and Anuj and I have discussed this, we want to change the law. We want to make that it's not this general admission, especially when minors are involved, who can get trampled when people are running to their seats, that it is you're going to your seat. So whether you arrive 2 hours before or 10 minutes before, you can just safely go to your seat without being worried about being trampled.
Yeah, I think those are great points. And kudos to you guys, the attorneys, who are making huge impacts in our community and changes with the law. Now, I want to kind of still talk a little bit about your experience with the MGM case. Now, every case is different. We definitely recognize that. But that was a concert. This is a festival. They're a little bit different parameters. Tell us how this festival was similar to that other case, and who are you going to hold accountable, and were they the same?
Well, it's similar because, again, you know, Live Nation is involved. We've got huge security issues there and here. And people were trampled, injured, damaged, and significantly hurt because they failed to have adequate safety features and security to make sure that people could go and attend a venue in a safe fashion. And again, I don't understand, after these types of tragedies have taken place and unfolded, when you see the fact that this has happened before at NRG, when you have the fact that Travis Scott, unfortunately, an artist who I love, has had significant problems in his concerts dating back to several years ago. All these are red flags to suggest, okay, hold on, what's our plan? If everything goes wrong, what are we going to do? And they were not ready for it, just like they weren't ready for it several years ago. And this is happening too many times, and something has to be done to stop this.
Yes, you bring up a very good point. And now, Attorney Anuj Kapur, I want to ask you, what are you looking for in this case specifically to determine the negligence?
Well, you know, I think a lot of investigative work needs to still be done. That'll be done after the lawsuit is filed. We go through what's called discovery. We find out, you know, what exact policies, procedures they had in place, and we find out if they were actually followed. But more so, we also want to know, were those the correct policies and procedures for the number of people that were there, for the size of the venue that we were coming to, and for the general procedures with which they decided, the general admission versus assigned seats. Is that the proper methodology for this group, this significant of a size of event goers? So there's a lot of things that we need to find out. But yeah, I mean, whether there's negligence or not, I don't think there is. I think it's a very clear answer that there was. I think there was a lot of responsibility on the promoters, on the performers themselves. And I just think the city of Houston was let down in the way that this performance was orchestrated.
And it's very unfortunate. Look, again, Marty, I don't want to be sitting here just kind of trashing the artists and things of that nature. We understand some things are in their control and some are not. And again, Travis Scott he's a homegrown artist, someone we appreciate, an African-American of sorts. And he's done a lot for the community. But the things you can't do are going on social media to incite certain things. You can't do these things. When as an artist, as a public figure, you have to kind of calm things down, not to, okay, let's come out here in this mosh pit and let's do this, that, and the other. You can't do certain things, especially when you have situations where people at your concerts before have been injured, have been left paralyzed at his concerts before. And so you're on notice. You can't do some things that you might have done 10 or 15 years ago when you weren't so popular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think, there's a saying that with great power comes great responsibility. And these performers wield a lot of power. What they say, people follow. And so being up on that stage and telling people to rage or to do certain things, I think that's negligence in itself. I think taking the right approach would be to stop what's happening, assess what is going on in that crowd, and stopping the event goers from behaving the way that they do.
Right. Those are great points that you guys are bringing up. And, we have a lot of people watching the show right now that either went to the concert, know someone that went to the concert, or even traveled to Houston, Texas to go to that concert. So for someone who's watching and attended the event, what steps should they take to get legal help?
That's a great question, Madi. I would say first and foremost, call our firm. Let us talk to you. I'd love to talk to you. And, if you have any questions at all, that's what we're here for. We've got social workers, we've got the attorneys, we've got case managers, we've got a lot of resources at the firm that can help walk you through the process, that can help walk you through your treatment or anything that you might need reeling from this event.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly correct. Obviously, we want to help you any way that we can. And that doesn't mean you have to sign on the line that is dotted to get that assistance. If there's things that we can try and do, resources we can point you towards, advice that we can give you, we're glad to give that to you. Obviously, from a legal standpoint, there's more things we can do if we're representing you under certain circumstances. But anything we'd love that we can do to help make this process work that much easier for you, we're glad to do.
Yeah. And I want to bring... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think at the end of the day, everybody's objective here is to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again.
Right.
I want to bring up, you guys represented the MGM case in Las Vegas. If there are individuals who are watching right now that are not in the state of Texas, are you guys able to help them as well seek the proper legal help?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, much like in that situation, you had people traveling from all over the country to go to that particular concert. The same thing here. This was a festival that brought many folks in from out of state. And we actually represent a couple of people. I talked to someone who came from Louisiana, and another person who was in from Tennessee, actually, to visit us. So coming from different states, if you're here, you're hurt, we can certainly help you without any problem.
If you guys attended the event, on the comment section, we do have a link that takes you straight to the page where it has a little questionnaire and it has our phone number. That is an easy way for you guys to get some help from the attorneys that are here watching, and they're going to be more than happy to help you. Now, I do have some questions from some of the concert goers that actually went or that know somebody that went. So Travis Scott and Live Nation have been refunding the attendees for their tickets. You guys probably have seen it in the news and social media. Is accepting a refund waiving their rights to sue or even be represented by an attorney like yourself?
Well, I think what I would want to see, first of all, is I'd like to see the ticket, and I'd want to read whatever language is on the back of the ticket just to make sure there's no language that's slipped in there that says if we issue a refund, you're waiving any claims. So that'd be my first step. Second of all, I'd want to make sure that they aren't, making this refund and then having some sort of document signed on the back end. So I would want to be very clear about that. We don't want you signing anything in exchange for this minimal refund. What we tend to see is people will try to do these sorts of things, and it's ends up being a drop in the bucket. They're issuing a couple $100 ticket for a claim that could be worth a lot more, and we don't want that to happen to you. We don't want anybody to fall into that trap.
Yeah, I want to kind of touch a little bit, something you guys mentioned earlier. Does everyone who went to the concert have a claim? And I just want to ask, do they have to have their ticket information? We're talking about tickets. What if they didn't buy their tickets? Can we talk a little bit more about those details?
Yeah, I think everybody who attended the concert could possibly have a claim. And so that, like we said, first and foremost, call the firm. Let's hash out any questions that you might have so that we get you within the correct time period to make your claim. Whether you had a ticket or not, we've been to events where someone else has purchased tickets. My family has bought tickets for us. So that's not necessarily a disqualification. We would want to talk to you about, well, what can we show that we would be able to prove that, hey, you were there, you were at this concert. So that would be the overarching dilemma, and that would be the main thing that we would want to make sure we can meet.
Yeah, I think Anuj has hit the nail right on the head. Sometimes the first question the defense counsel is going to want to prove that your client was attended and was injured at the event. So if you have, and we've been able to do that many ways, with pictures, with video, with just friend statements, things of that nature. So the fact that you may or may not have purchased your actual ticket is not it's not going to discount your ability to move forward with a case of this nature.
Nice. So earlier we talked a little bit about the injuries, physical, mental, psychological, all those good ones. So do the individuals that are watching right now, do they have to have either physical or psychological injury to even have a claim to call us?
Well, I think anybody who attended should call us. Let's talk about any questions that you have. This isn't the first question that I've received. I've talked to many different people who've got a slew of questions about the event, their injuries, treatment, all those sorts of things. So I'd love to talk with anybody who had any questions at all. But no, there are going to be a variety of injuries, a variety of different claims. And I was going to mention this earlier. It could take the form of almost any type of claim. If someone actually did have a physical injury and they are now unable to drive or unable to work, that could turn into an economic claim for lost wages. Or if you were an Uber driver and you're no longer able to do that, that's another form of that. There's also loss of consortium. So if a spouse that was injured, the other spouse could also have a claim. So there are lots of different claims, not necessarily tied to a physical injury that would have resulted from going to the concert, but there are a variety of different claims and injuries.
So one of the things that you're going to have to recover is going to be damages. And as Anuj has rightly pointed out, those damages can come in several different forms. And so again, we urge you to contact us. We can ask you some of those definitive questions that will help you kind of characterize and show you that you may be more injured and damaged than you think, and let us help you to assess that, to prove that up, so you can decide what it is best for yourself and your family.
An additional question. I know we're talking about the concert goers, right? Could those that actually work the event, the people at the stands, the people at the food, there was food trucks there was vendors for T-shirts, do they also have a claim on anything that may have happened?
That's a great point. Yes. And I full-heartedly believe that they do. Just like the concert goers, the concert workers relied on the same parties to put on a safe concert. And the fact that they failed not only Houston, but also the people that were working this concert is negligence in itself as well. So yeah, I believe everybody has a claim. We
actually, Anuj, I talked to earlier last week. I talked to a vendor that was there, and he said, look, I wasn't physically injured, but I saw some things that were going on, and more importantly, I wasn't able to do business the whole next day, and I paid to be here. And I think I think he does have a breach of contract case that we can certainly bring. And so he's going to get back in touch with us and should be signing up hopefully in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different angles, facts on this case. I know you guys are talking the best that you guys can on this case in particular. There's a very important question that I have. I know many people are seeing posts, news, interviews like such, but how much time do the individuals have to file a claim?
Well, generally, in Texas, you have 2 years from the date of injury. And now I'm talking more about the physical, mental, those sorts of injuries. There's also a different portion of this with a breach of contract claim, like Darren was mentioning. And so that you usually have 4 years from the date of the breach.
But just to be very clear, as Anuj stated, the focus of this, quite frankly, is, as Anuj properly stated, 2 years out in terms of a statute of limitations. But that being the case, guys, we want to talk to you as quickly as possible. If you're hurting, if you're injured, if you're having psychological issues, you don't need to wait. Let us help you. We can, if you don't have help, we can get you sorted out and get you with folks that will be able to address your issues. And you need that help now. You don't need to wait on it. It's been long enough. You get the help and assistance that you need right now. We can assist you with that as quickly.
That's awesome. Now, another important question that consumers are asking is, what type of claim will they be filing with you guys? Is this criminal? Is this personal injury? Is this civil? And for those that are watching that have no idea, can you guys explain the difference between all of those?
Yeah, so most likely people would be filing a civil claim at this point. There may be criminal charges that come later, but that wouldn't be through us. So we would be filing a civil claim for personal injuries, whether it be physical actual injuries, mental injuries, or something of that nature.
Yeah, the state is going to determine, as you've seen, and we see it every day when you go home, they're investigating to see whether or not criminal lines have been crossed and see whether or not people will be indicted for certain criminal issues. That's an issue as related to the state. As we said, we'd be taking care of the civil part of the case for our clients.
I see. Now, you guys, attorneys at D. Miller and Associates PLLC, tell us, for those that are watching, what sets you guys apart from other Houston attorneys that are handling cases, or even other attorneys that are in different states as well?
Well, I think the one thing that sets us apart is Anuj and I stand ready to listen to you. You can get us on the phone. Obviously we've got our intake folks, but if you need to speak to us as your attorney or ask an attorney specifically about your specific issue, we will be there to assist you. We've done this before. We have the experience. I know there's a lot of lawyers kind of throwing their hat in the ring as related to that, but I would ask them, how many of these types of cases have you handled before? And what are your results? Okay. We've done it. We've done it for many years. We've gotten millions of dollars for our clients as related to these particular issues. You have to have the experience. You have to have the track record. And do you have the staff, social and otherwise, the social welfare folks to address these particular issues? We've got a staff of 129 folks here, and we're here to help you. When you need us at night, weekends or whatnot, we're the ones who are going to be there to address those issues for you. Many other attorneys don't function like that. And I think that's the thing that kind of sets us apart.
Yeah, I think Darren hit it right on the head. The way our firm is set up is very unique, from intake all the way through litigation. You deal with various people in the firm. It's a very streamlined process. We make sure we take care of the medical treatment, whatever your needs are, we address them. And it's not that you're just a number here at the firm, but you physically, you have our phone numbers where we are in contact with our clients daily. It's just it's a very great process here at the firm.
That's awesome to hear. For those of you guys that are watching, and you guys can get these attorneys on the phone as well when you call the number that is on the screen. Now, Attorney Anuj Kapur, I want to ask you, what is this firm hoping to accomplish while representing these clients?
Well, what our hope is, number one and most important, is to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. I mentioned before, I want my daughter to be able to go to things like this. I want to be able to go to things like this without worrying, is something like this going to happen again? Or do we need to know where the exits are? Do we need to do something like that? that uneasiness just it takes away from the fun of the event. And that's what you're there for. Yeah, I don't want to have to worry about our safety like that. And so that I would hope the most important thing would be to make sure something like this doesn't happen. Second of all, I would want to take care of whatever claims our clients are having. And most importantly would be their treatment. If they have physical injuries, I want to make sure those get addressed. If they have mental issues, if they're unable to drive, or they have some sorts of anxiety of going to the grocery store or anything, just activities of daily life, as we call them, I want to make sure that gets addressed. I don't want this to be an embellishment on them or on the city of Houston.
Marty, this is just not a money grab for us, okay? Anuj should not have to be asking himself, okay, is it safe for myself and my daughter to go to a concert? We've got to change that. We've got to change it so that folks know that the laws here are such that if we do go to a concert, we will be safe. We can go and come back and don't have to worry about those things. In terms of the finances and the money and all that stuff, those things tend to take care of themselves. If we address the important things as related to the issues of the clients and getting them the help that they need, addressing the importance with regards to changing the law and making sure that you can't go to concerts and stuff like this do not happen in the future, I think the results will kind of take care of themselves in the long run.
I love what you guys are doing. And I love how you guys are trying to create change. This is not the only concert. This is not the only festival. There's festivals everywhere in Texas alone, whether it's Houston, Austin, Dallas. And I think you guys are really setting a tone for those procedures, those policies, and making a change on what's just not right. So I have to ask you, attorneys, I'm very thankful to have you guys on the show, but I like to end the show with just one more piece of advice for those that are watching right now, whether they went to a concert, whether they work at a concert, whether they're the decision makers on making some of these policies. There's many people that are watching right now. What advice would you give to those who are watching?
Wow. Gosh, what a tough question, Madi. To be careful with regards to, we're not there yet. And these concerts, as it stands right now, we don't know whether they're safe. And we've got our work cut out for us, because traditionally this is how it's always been done. But quite frankly, we've taken on these challenges before with our USC case and changing the law out in California. And so we are going to change things. We're going to change the environment. We're going to change the expectations. We're going to change the narrative such that promoters, folks that want to put on shows, understand that the safety of your clients, the people coming to attend your concert, has to be the primary concern. Not just, okay, I've got this 50,000 people coming. Now you guys figure out what's going on from there. That cannot be the standard. And so I think that's what is one of the most important things, at least for me, at least at this particular point in time.
Yeah. I think if I was given the event goers and the people that work the event some advice, my biggest piece of advice would be to come forward. The more people that come forward, the more they see that this has affected the city, the more it's affected people. And I think the more people that are affected, the more change that will be made. And we want to make sure that there is change and that something like this does not happen again. And the only way to do that is by coming forward, speaking your mind, speaking about what happened, how it's affected you. That's the way we see change.
Yes, by having a voice. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're seeing that. Thankfully, a lot of folks are heeding your advice there, Anuj, with regards to people coming forward and saying that they worked here or they saw this, or giving out videos or information as to what's. And the information is just appalling that these venues are and folks are allowing some of these things to happen. So we've got to learn from this. We got to make sure that these things don't happen again, so that we can try and get back to a better state of normalcy.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I admire of you guys, your firm, is that you guys give your clients, your survivors, a voice. And I think that is very, very important. Having someone like you guys represent them in front of, the judge, in front of the big companies and those that are responsible. So if you guys are watching right now, if you or a family member need legal representation in regards to the Astroworld Festival, contact us today. The link is in the comments. You could just click it right there. fill out your information, and you will have someone call you within the next couple of minutes. So that comment sections. Attorney Darren, Attorney Anuj, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on the show and speaking about what just happened less than 2 weeks ago. I know we're probably going to come back again on the show when more details presents itself and you guys can talk a little bit more as, more facts unfold. So I want to thank you guys for being on the show today.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
And for those of you guys that are watching, I want to thank you guys also for tuning in and for sharing this post. The more you guys share, the more that we can touch lives of those that know someone that went to the concert, that live in Texas or don't live in Texas. The more we get to share, the more lives we get to touch. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Mari B. Until next time.